Take the Holy Bible in your right hand and repeat after me. I, Olusegun Obasanjo,
I, Olusegun Obasanjo,
do solemnly swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So help me God.
As your president to head a democratic civilian administration, the beneficiaries of corruption in all forms will fight back with all the foul means at their disposal. We shall be firm with them. There will be no sacred cows. Nobody, no matter who and where, will be allowed to get away with the breach of the law or the perpetration of corruption and evil.
It means nothing. Our interest is how we stabilize light, and we promise that before the middle of next year, light will be reasonably, I'm not saying total, reasonably stabilized in this country. Any difficulty we still experience from fluctuations in supply should be understood to be temporary and not endemic again. We can all look forward with confidence to a better time very, very soon, as we have seen.
Having just a few minutes ago sworn by the Holy Book, I intend to keep my oath and serve as President to all Nigerians. I belong to everybody and I belong to nobody. A few people have privately posed fears that on coming back to office, I shall go after them. These fears are groundless. There will be no paying off old scores. The past is prologue. Nigerians will not regret that they have entrusted national responsibility to us. We must not succumb to hopelessness and defeatism. We can fix our problems.
Promise I won't fail. I want more well. I just go away. Hello, you do.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome back to our podcast this week. We are happy to have you on board. Hey. Yeah, my name is Ayodeji Adigbala and I'm your host. And this is a Nigerian story podcast. I'm glad you are listening. Yeah, this week promised to be very, very interesting. Please, I want to ask you a question. Have you washed your hands? If you haven't, please go and do that right now because it's very, very important. Our health is very, very important. Yeah, thank you because you're going to do that. Now, last week we had a lot of contributions. I want to say thank you for that. We are really grateful. Thank you so much. But I will be taking just two. We had one from Comrade Oluwatosin Igbagboyemi. She suggested that politicians' manifesto should be measured in time frame. As in by that, she's saying that if by any means such a politician does not meet the deadline which he or she says is going to do whatever he or she wants to do, such a politician should be removed. Now she concluded by saying that if you don't perform, you will be removed. I think I love that so much. Thank you, Comrade Oluwatosin Igbagboyemi. God bless you. Now, on the contrary, we had a contribution from Comrade Abayomi. Comrade Abayomi suggested that the traditional oaths will be more effective. I mean, traditional means will be more effective than the use of the Holy Bibles and what have you that we are using in our swearing in ceremony. And that will be all for the contribution. God bless you. So this week we are here with different tools to dissect the topic. So here with me is Mr. Joseph Akinkuotu, a political analyst. Mr. Joseph, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So Mr. Joseph, why do you think some of our public office holders in Nigeria fail to keep their promises even after swearing them in with the Holy Books? And what do you think are the solutions to that?
Every politician knows that the key to winning elections is to make great promises, most especially in this climate, Nigeria. Politicians campaigning to run for respective public offices promise to cure the ills of society, which may include taxes, it may include investment, jobs, create corruption, and freedoms. Funnily, the size of the elected office seems almost correlated with the size of the promises being made by elected public office holders, even at the state or local government level. However, politicians in close races may attempt to extract a few additional votes by promising to improve a specific problem that an interest group or people living in a particular geographical area cares about the most. Well, there seems to be no limit at all to the amount of promises politicians will put in their manifestos.
Yes.
Political parties we often hire political consultants so they can suggest as many promises as can ever be imagined, and promises will be made according to what is believed to be what the people want to hear, not according to what can be achieved from a pragmatic and practical point of view. To me, this is absurd, and this is why many people or some group of people we always feel it is strategic to start making demands during election seasons. It is believed that an incumbent government is always at its negotiating weakest in the run-up to an election.
That's true.
We've already seen the labor unions trying industrial action to press for better remuneration and better working conditions.
Yes.
And we have often read reports of teachers and lecturers like the academic staff union planning to embark, or that has planned to embark on some kind of industrial actions in the past. You see, needless to detail here the many broken campaign promises that have accumulated throughout history as far as Nigeria is concerned. Well, there is no logical reason to believe that a party that has failed over the years in some states, in putting some things in order in some states, are coming or turning around to promise a whole country of so many good things. So logically, one would not want to consume or believe that. Whether or not this is a fair characterization, the point is that no politician, I repeat, no politician is immune from either not living up to pre-election hype or being accused of failing to do so. I remember vividly in the 2011 governorship election in Akwa Ibom State, for instance, Senator Godswill Akpabio, who was then seeking votes for a second tenure as governor, promised to establish 31 industries, one in each of the local governments in the state.
Wow.
Without being guided by any feasibility study, he did not even say which industry would be cited in a particular place. Senator Godswill Akpabio won the election and served out his tenure without establishing any industry anywhere, as he promised earlier during the re-election process. So it may well be that he never intended to establish any industry. He would have made history if he did, but the Nigerian politician is not interested in scoring high marks of achievement. Faced with stiff competition with similarly well-founded rivals, perhaps the most expedient thing is to spin a web of bizarre lies with the sole aim of getting elected. Well, the classic campaign of a Nigerian politician seeking public office is managed by compulsive falsifiers who spin stories about everything. But what they are actually expected to do, which is sell a body of eloquent and realizable policies that can get someone elected, so enticing. Well, its bit has become clinch to see politicians in Nigeria take to the podium during election campaign to muscle their opponent for not living up to previous campaign promises, while at the same time making vague promises they as well have no idea on how to execute to the electorate. Nigerians are familiar with vague promises made by politicians across the political parties, such as the pledges to tackle insecurity, pledges to revive the economy, pledges to stabilize the naira, pledges to construct road, kill corruption, pledges to end corruption. These are few examples of promises politicians in Nigeria and their party make, with no attempt to explain how they intend to achieve them. I remember vividly as well, during the 2015 general election, the All Progressive Congress, APC, and President Muhammadu Buhari, its presidential candidates, were caught promising all manner of change to Nigerians, some of which have been denied by the party or broken by Buhari in a space of 3 years. During the 2015 general elections specifically, the APC and President Muhammadu Buhari promised a lot of things, and some of the promises made by Buhari and APC in the heat of the campaign and which they failed to implement include stabilizing the naira. They promised that there is going to be ban on all government officials from seeking medical care abroad. They promised that there's going to be implementation of the national gender policy, which includes about 35% of female will be included in appointive positions in the government. And they also promised that there is going to be generation of transmission or distribution of at least 20,000 megawatts of electricity within 4 years. It was promised that there's going to be creation of additional middle class of at least 2 million new homes in the first year in government, and have at least one functioning airport in each of the 36 states and a host of other promises. So you can imagine if a government should come on board to promise that there's going to be one functional airport per state. This is an enticing promise that people would want to vote that particular person or party in. So one of the promises in particular was broken by Buhari himself. On the 7th of May 2017, the president left the country for the United Kingdom, where he would stay in London for about he stayed in London for about 103 days, receiving medical attention. After that, he also traveled a couple of more times outside the country for medical checkups with his doctors. So this in turn, I think the president of the country also contravened the promise he made during the elections. So, and this is affecting national development in Nigeria. It's affecting our national growth as a developing nation in Nigeria. It is affecting us from competing with other developed countries. So on the issue of fuel subsidy again by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, President Muhammadu Buhari during the election had once described it as a scam. He described the subsidy as a scam. But under his watch in the administration after he was being elected, NNPC has continued paying the same subsidy on petroleum. So in many ways, voters like you and I are the eternal optimists who can't learn from experience at all. I'm sorry to say this, we can't learn from experience. We always want to believe that our politicians will improve our lives. We believe sweet nothings without putting any of the said promises to scrutiny. Although I understand in political science, there is what we call social contract theory, the agreement between the voter and the electorate and the leader. You understand? There is space for that. I agree. But when post-election reality hits us, we forget how unrealistic we were in believing that somehow, sometimes the outcome would be very, 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 very different. So this is how far we have gone in Nigeria, and it is affecting us. It is really, really affecting us. Let me talk about marketing psychology, and I'm going to correlate it with what I'm discussing. You see, marketing psychology provides intriguing insight into why broken promises are so hurtful to the customer. The feeling is called negative expectancy disconfirmation.
Please, sir, because of our audience, can you take that again?
It is called negative expectancy disconfirmation.
Okay.
It can easily be demonstrated in studies involving consumer products that fail to deliver on the advertised or promised effect.
Okay.
Now, once our lives are impacted by the disappointing effect of a broken promises,
okay,
we as people, we tend to distrust those that broke the promises. We tend to generalize and extend our distrust to other people we associate with those who we actually distrust. It is just as let me give you another example. Like a woman cheated on by one man will sometimes tend to distrust all men, and a man cheated on by one woman will tend to generally and distrust all women. So we can even come to a point where we distrust all politicians, all of those who work with or for politicians. However, it seems that no one is completely immune to negative expectancy disconfirmation. If our politicians in Nigeria are ever to be able to lead, then there will have to be an end at some point to the negative expectancy disconfirmation effect. We as Nigerians too, we have to learn to trust again.
Okay.
Great leaders in the world requires, more specifically now, great leaders in Nigeria requires not only the ability to take bold action, but the willingness of citizens to allow them to try to win without having to make wild and unrealistic promises.
Okay.
Because on the morning after, it would be nice to wake up and be able to feel that whoever won or lost, the change is one we can truly believe in.
Yeah.
And you see, with the people as well, we've actually been blaming the government.
Exactly.
We've actually been blaming the leaders. But with the people, we are also at fault.
Exactly.
You ask me why, and I'm going to provide answers to that. Sometimes we allow these politicians to make vague promises. We let these politicians to say unrealistic things that they know they can't even achieve. Do you understand the point I'm making now?
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. But for clarification, are you saying Nigerians cannot totally escape this syndrome?
Yes. To most extent, I don't think we can actually escape from the promise and the failed syndrome from the politicians. Like I was talking the other time, I have come to realize that leadership shouldn't be blamed any longer in our national development in the Nigerian politics. Followership should be blamed now, because sometimes if as followers we do not do what is expected of us as electorate during elections, the politicians or some of the politicians, in order to win elections, will try to induce voters. Who are the voters? We are the voters. If we stand our ground, on our ground, that we are not going to be induced, at the end of the day, we would find it so easy to elect the right hands, the best brain, the best hands for respective political offices in Nigeria. But as soon as we begin to see whatsoever thing that we intend to get from them on election day or during campaign, then a politician too, he or she is not daft. Now, I want you to also understand that not all politicians, as people, there is need for us to look at the manifesto and the characteristics, and at the same time what that particular politician needs to offer before we cast our vote. It is so prevalent in Nigeria today for politicians to begin to say, I'm going to build roads for you, I'm going to put these things in place. At the end of the day, we need to also ask ourselves questions. There are some promises that are vague. There are some promises that are not realizable.
So, thank you, Mr. Joseph. But please, let's go on a short break now. And when we are back, we'll be looking at the solutions to this problem.
Killings going on here and there. Politicians stealing money everywhere. Make it simple, make it unattractive. Ṣèbọ́lá wọn fẹ́ sí wa ní. Gómìnà ẹ ṣe ní 20k, Senator ẹ ṣe ní 30k, President ẹ ṣe ní 50k. Káwá wẹ̀ni tí ó para wọn. Promise and fail, àwa mọ̀rú ẹ̀ ẹ ti gbowó ẹ̀yìn.
Thank you for staying tuned. With me here on TNS is Mr. Joseph Akinkuotu. He has been talking about the Nigerian leaders and the promises they make. So, Mr. Joseph, what other things do you think are the solutions to this problem? Despite the fact that in our first episode, our first speaker has said some things. So, what do you think are other solutions to the problem we find ourselves?
I am going to be providing some advice or recommending some things for we voters or us voters to do. Number one, we should observe from both sides of every story. Let's inform ourselves of what was actually said on campaign trail and not what was reported to have been said. Let us listen carefully to what politicians say. Let's avoid projecting our own wishes and desires into candidates' statements. Let's hear them very well. So with all these things, I think politicians would even find it so difficult to begin to make promises that are not realistic. As well, the politicians as well should honor the social contract within or between them and the people. So with this, I think if all these things are being put in place, it will be difficult for an average politician to promise and not fulfill these promises.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Joseph, for that informative and very, very insightful discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, another way to curb and overcome our problems, as our speaker said, is by listening and attending political campaigns so that we can hold them. So that we can hold our politicians responsible, so that we can hold them accountable. I believe you've gotten value for your time, and that will be the end of today's podcast. I want to appreciate my crew, Ms. Chineku Metu, the program editor, Mr. Michael Alowoja, the head of graphics, Ms. Yanu Latayo, assistant head graphic design, and every other person that makes today's program a success. Here's the time to reward our listeners. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have been our listeners for some time now, this is the time for you to benefit financially. 2 winners stand the chance of winning 1 gig after answering the question posed in the description correctly. All you have to do is to answer the question and follow the instruction. Let me conclude by saying this. For Nigeria to grow, we need more of leaders than politicians. Thank you very much, and God bless you. This is the Nigerian story. My story. My story.
Your story. Your story. Our story. Thank you for listening. Please share your comments and reviews. You can join the discussion on our social media handle on WhatsApp at Revive Nigerian Mission on 0813-387-1480. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Revive Nigerian Mission. Join us next week as we will be telling another interesting story. Shout out to all members of Revive Nigerian Mission. We love you. We love you. We love you.